Welcome. Oh, that was lovely. Good morning. My name is Abigail Bottome, and I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. If you're a visitor or new to First Parish, welcome. Please reach out to one of the greeters if you have questions. The first part of our service is recorded. Following the benediction, the recording will end. Then we will go into our candles section, which is not recorded. The service will be posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. Please join us after the service for coffee outside next to the parish house. Welcome to our service at First Parish, Plymouth. Our service today is led by our minister, Reverend Lavoie. The sermon is titled, The Power of Love. Our technical director is Linda Harding. Today's live music will be performed by Sandi, Hammond, and Taylor Marsyla. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, let us walk together this hour.
That. I think my voice carries well enough for the filming. So I'm going to take an opportunity to welcome everyone to our service here at First Parish in Plymouth, especially those who are watching on our YouTube or Facebook channels or on one of the local public access TV stations. We are delighted to welcome you as part of our First Parish family this morning, and please visit our website or call the office. The website is firstparishplymouthuu.org if you would like any more information or if you would like to talk to the minister. A couple of things about this morning's service. I just want to alert people that we've had to reintroduce these big floodlight things that we used when we were doing Zoom services because we noticed 2 weeks ago that the whole place was backlit from the windows and that you really couldn't see people's faces. So we're trying to do this as unobtrusively as possible. We're going to test the filming out from this week and see if we have to kind of adjust them or move them closer, but we're trying not to impede the congregation. I want to remind people also that please wear a mask. If you're going to sing, masks are available on that table next to Valerie on the side of the chapel here. You are all important and needed. We are so happy that you are here.
So I'll try without. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I used to teach in rooms this big, so I should be good enough. The call to worship this morning is Genesis 17:7. I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your offspring after you, throughout their generations.
Please rise in body or in spirit to sing We Would Be One, number 318 in the Great Hymnal. And again, please wear a mask if you're going to sing. Abby is going to come up and light our chalice for us this morning. So just take one of these candles and from that little light. And please repeat with me the words to the chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of the church, and the service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
I still teach in a room this size. So I think I got this one covered. So our theme this month is bravery. And we're talking about covenant. Those words go really well together. Bravery and covenant. You have to be brave to create a covenant. You have to be brave to live your covenant. So I found a story about bravery. It's called The Sound the Hare Heard. Long, long ago, a lion lived in a forest near the ocean. In one part of that forest, there was a grove of palms mixed with belly trees. A hare lived in that grove beneath the palm saplings at the foot of a belly tree. One day, the hare lay under the young palm tree, idly thinking, if this earth was destroyed, what would become of me? At that very moment, a ripe belly fruit happened to fall, hit the palm leaf, and make a loud thud. Thank you for the sound effects. Startled by this sound, the hare leapt to his feet and cried, "The earth is collapsing!" He immediately fled. He didn't even look back. He didn't question where the noise came from. He didn't try to use his knowledge and think about it. He ran as far away as his very large feet could take him. Another hare, seeing him race past it, as if his very life was in danger, asked, "What's wrong?" And he started to run too, away from a sound he didn't know was even there. "Don't ask," panted the first. This frightening the second hare even more, and he sprinted to keep up. "What's wrong?" he shouted. Pausing for just a moment, the first hare cried, "The earth is breaking up!" And at this, the two of them bolted together. Their fear was infectious, and other hares joined them until the hares in that forest were one large group fleeing together. When other animals saw the commotion and asked what was wrong, they breathlessly were told, "The earth is breaking up!" And they too began running for their lives. In this way, they were soon joined by herds of deer, boar, elk, buffalo, wild oxen, rhinoceros, a family of tigers, and some elephants, all running away from something they didn't know. When the lion saw this headlong stampede of animals and heard the cause of their flight, he thought, the earth's not coming apart, not ending. What's going on? There must be some sound that they misunderstood. If I can't act quickly, they're going to be killed. I must save them. Then, as fast as only he could run, he got in front of them and he roared 3 times. At the sound of his mighty voice, all the animals stopped in their tracks. Panting, they huddled together in fear. The lion approached them and asked why they were running. "The earth is collapsing," they all said. "Who saw it collapsing?" asked the lion. "The elephants know all about it," some of the animals replied. When he asked the elephants, they said, "We don't know, Tiger knows." Tiger said, "The rhinos know." The rhinos said, "The wild oxen know." The wild oxen said, "The buffalo know." The buffalo said, "The elk know." The elk said, "The boars know." The boars said, "The deer know." The deer said, "I don't know." Finally, someone said, "I think it was the hares." When he asked the hares, they pointed to one particular hare and said, "That's the one who told us." "Yes, sir, I saw it," said the hare. "Where were you when you saw it?" "In the forest, in the palm grove, mixed with the belly trees. I was lying there under a palm at the foot of a belly tree, thinking, is this earth ever going to be destroyed? When all of a sudden, I heard a noise, and I fled. I knew what it meant." From this explanation, the lion realized exactly what had happened. But he wanted to verify his conclusion and demonstrate the truth to the other animals. He gently calmed the animals and said, "I will take the hare with me and go find out whether or not the earth really is collapsing and coming to an end. Please just wait here until we return." Placing the hare on his tawny back, he raced with great speed back to the grove. Then he put the hair down and said, "Come show me that spot that you meant, where it's breaking." "Oh, I don't dare, I don't dare." "Don't be afraid, I'm with you." The hair shivered. He would not risk going near the belly tree. He could only point and say, "Over there, that's the place of the dreadful sound." The lion went to the place the hair indicated. He could make out where the hare had been lying in the grass. He saw the ripe belly fruit that had fallen in the palm leaf. Having carefully ascertained that the earth was not breaking up, he placed the hare on his back again and turned to the waiting animals. He told them what he had found. He calmly said, "You don't have to be afraid." He reassured all the animals, and they returned to their usual places. These animals had placed themselves in great danger because they listened to rumors. They created unfounded fears. They didn't try to find out the truth. They didn't have faith in others. Truly, if it had not been for one lion, those beasts would have rushed into the sea and perished. It's only because of wisdom and compassion that they escaped death. As we continue to talk about bravery this month and covenants this week, let's lead with wisdom and compassion and save ourselves from running into the water. Now we will go on a journey of learning and discovery.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Our reading this morning is from The Open Door, and There Are the People by Lisa K. Jennings. The beginnings of covenant, as we know it in the modern world, originated as a bond between God and his people, as chronicled in Genesis and Exodus. Being in covenant entails being in right relationship with the holy, or God, the vertical dimension of covenant, and with other people, the horizontal dimension. Thus, right relationship involves, first and foremost, attending to the ways of that which is holy and defining what is true in our lives. Paying attention to the holy can enlarge our gratitude and generosity of spirit and help us prioritize that which is most important to us. In essence, the vertical dimension calls for our hopes and dreams for the world. Covenants that take the form of sincere agreements are made between persons or groups of people in the horizontal dimension, and they are typically affirming in nature. They encourage tranquility and bring stability to the world. They have three general characteristics. First, they are entered into willingly and without coercion. Second, they aspire to fidelity and commitment to truth and avoid the pursuit of behaviors that diminish its spirit. Third, they call for non-retaliation and a commitment to attempt to heal those broken by their efforts to cultivate a generosity of spirit.
$500
Because we're not using a mic here this morning, for any that are hearing impaired, the entire script of the sermon and readings is over on the table, and I gave one to Diane so you can follow along. We love our family and friends, but sometimes they can get on our one last nerve. And here at First Parish in Plymouth, or in other social or work situations, we, like most of the people, but there are always some that we don't quite click with. Even the people we love and get along with can sometimes trigger our anger, our jealousy, our resentment. That's the thing about people. We all have our individual quirks. You can't live with them and you can't live without them. And you certainly can't control them. As human beings, we are not meant to be solitary creatures. We live and thrive best in relationship to others. Part of our self-definition involves the people around us that we care about and are connected to in some way. As the religion of the Hebrew people evolved, covenant became enshrined as a sacred set of promises between the people and their one God, Yahweh. The word covenant may come to us from the Bible, but we must also remember that covenant was also a word used to describe political realities, a set of commitments between a ruler or a warlord and the people being ruled. A warlord would offer protection for loyalty, fealty, and tax income from the people's crops and livestock. So those original Hebrew covenants involved the sacrifice of crops and animals to show people's devotion to this God that would protect them and give their lives some structure and meaning. Moving ahead to more recent times, when our Puritan ancestors broke away from the hierarchical structure of the Church of England, they returned to the language of covenant for inspiration. But this time, they took the biblical language, creating covenants with God and among the people. In the Mayflower Compact, written when that ship landed in 1620, its authors determined, and I quote, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, to covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation. They pledged to enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. In his book, The American Creed, the Reverend Forrest Church writes, in America, religious covenant and civic compact have a similar character and derive from the same source. Each is freely entered into, and ultimately the authority for both is granted by higher authority than that which an earthly king can bestow. In practicing their religion and in creating their government, the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony acted freely despite the royal imprimatur of their charter. By so doing, they sounded the keynote of American democracy. Of course, we know the way that it was practiced in Puritan New England, this political dream of democracy had elements of a fairly hierarchical theocracy. Native peoples were exploited, their beliefs and customs were not respected. Europeans with other religious beliefs were banished. But the foundation of individual freedom had been laid and would be revisited over and over again in both church and civil governance as our understanding grew and evolved. You could say that these early colonists were doing an incredibly radical thing here, for they understood that being in right relationship with each other and with God involved a measure of personal freedom and shared responsibility and decision-making. And for them, right relationship was one that was infused with the Spirit of Christ, which to them meant the embodied spirit of love. So here on Sunday mornings, we don't talk much about the deity, but we do say, and as we said this morning, that love is the doctrine of this church. Embodying that vertical connection to our highest ideals. And service is its law, embodying that horizontal relationship to each other and to the earth. Our constitutional democracy, in many ways, was founded on this theology of covenant, a sacred promise between people that brings everyone to the table. It asks not that we believe alike, but that we commit ourselves to working things out together in the spirit of a loving community. There are many implicit covenants that we take for granted. Depending on the culture we're from, we know the proper distance to stand from one another when speaking to them. We know how much eye contact or physical contact is appropriate. We have implicit agreements about the tone and volume of our voice, as well as about grooming and dress. These are all part of the implicit covenants we learn in our family and in society. Then there are laws governing bigger issues as our covenants become more explicit. We know not to bodily harm each other or mess with another person's spouse. We respect each other's possessions and property. These are issues outlined in one of the earliest sets of laws in the Western world, the Ten Commandments. Any organization, any family, any community needs to be constantly vigilant about the covenants we keep, those that are explicit and those that are implicit. Because it is increasingly clear that without covenants, things get really messy. Feelings get hurt, rights get trampled on, people without a voice get ignored, or abused. People without a voice get ignored or abused, and we lose the ability to interact across our differences. The crisis around the 2020 election is a clear example that some of the ways we have done things have not been codified into law, but remain part of the implicit covenants in a civil society. As our society becomes more partisan and less civil, these agreements will have to be clarified and made more explicit. As was mentioned earlier, God makes and renews covenants with people throughout the Bible. One that I find very interesting is the one made with Noah after the floodwaters had receded and Noah and his family were able to land the ark on solid ground. Noah uses the age-old practice of killing and burning animal sacrifices as a gesture of gratitude and praise to his God. God not only accepts this sacrifice, this offering from Noah and his family, God vows to never again bring such destruction upon the earth. I find this fascinating. If you do a deeper analysis, it looks like God has had a moment of insight and seems to be sorry for bringing so much death and destruction. God is saying, at least to himself, oops, I might have gone too far here. I'm never going to do this again. God, or human ideas about God, are clearly evolving in this story. From an angry, judgmental God to one that is more compassionate and has a more generous spirit. That story illustrates an essential part of covenant that we often forget. Not only is covenant about the promises we make to each other, covenants are about the promises we make to ourselves, to our God, our highest ideals. Covenant also demands some self-examination, some humility, some letting go of ego, and being able to say, oops, I might have gone too far. I'm sorry. I won't do that again. Keeping covenants take a lot of bravery and courage. Keeping covenants are hard work. We all know that. It's always easier to make nice, lofty promises about how we're going to get along and what are the ideal behaviors we aspire to. It's much more difficult to admit when we've fallen short or failed to live up to our commitments, to ourselves and each other. Being able to apologize and to forgive each other are essential to making our commitments and our covenants last over time. And this is an important lesson for us, because with our inflated egos, we sometimes act as though we're bigger and better than anything or anyone else. If the God of the Bible can have the humility to say, I'm never going to do that again, we also should be able to do the same. During this church year, the transition team will invite everyone to join a small group that will meet 4 times to talk about the church's mission and covenant. Each session will have a leading question that will tease out your thoughts regarding some aspect of these issues. The more you participate, the more of you who participate, the stronger will be the whole congregation as you move forward together. The covenant will address your individual relationship with yourself and your highest ideal, your parallel relationships with each other, and responsibilities of elected and appointed leaders, and what those relationships entail. The covenant will also address a process that you will follow when things get messy and there is conflict or a breakdown of communication and understanding. Whether or not we're consciously aware of it, we're part of an ongoing set of covenantal relationships that extends way beyond ourselves to all that is holy and good. Our covenantal relationships reflect both a moment in time as well as our ongoing commitment to be in right relationship with each other across all the barriers of time and space and ethnicity and age and gender and race and sexual orientation and identity that often stand in our way. Almost 20 years ago, I was hired to serve as the interim minister of lifespan faith development at the West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Rocky River, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. This was a large church with a ministry couple who were the senior ministers. I had replaced the Reverend Midge Squire, who had retired after 27 years as that congregation's religious educator. There were like 500 kids in the program at one point. 120 when I was there. One morning, a few weeks after I arrived, I found this old, somewhat tattered envelope tucked in the back of my desk drawer. It was addressed to the Religious Education Director, West Shore Unitarian Church. Now those are older names for both the position that I had held and for that church community before the merger of Unitarian Universalists. At first I thought it was something that Midge had forgotten to take with her when she left. When I opened the envelope, I was delighted to find a letter from Midge to me. With increasing surprise and awe, I also found a letter from Midge's predecessor, Betty Lockwood, to her, a letter from Anne Scougill to Betty, one from Evelyn Lajeunesse to Anne, one from Marguerite Ashbrook to Evelyn, and a poem that Roberta North Julian left for Marguerite. The church had been founded in the mid-1950s with the rapid development of Cleveland's western suburbs. And here was a letter, a note, or a poem from one religious educator to her successor that told stories, praised the community, gave advice, welcomed the new educator, and offered support and good wishes. I felt as if I had come across a treasure more priceless than a collection of precious jewels. Here was a legacy that illustrated an ongoing covenant that went back to that church's founding. The power of a greater love connected these women to me and to each other across years and generations. Because we are a covenantal faith tradition, we are founded on covenant, not on creed. Our legacy as Unitarian Universalists will be judged by our willingness to engage in the power of love, to strive to be in right relationship with ourselves, each other, and our God or highest ideals, to that very love that calls to us and challenges us each and every day. May it always be so. Amen. Blessed be. So, if you pick up your teal hymnals and turn to 1014, to honor some of the struggles of the disability rights community, the name of this song has been changed from Standing on the Side of Love to Answering the Call of Love. So when it appears, the Standing on the Side of Love words appear in the refrain, please sing with us, Answering the Call of Love, rather than Standing on the Side of Love. That is our closing hymn. Please rise as willing and able, and put your masks on if you're going to sing.
Faith, hope, and love abide.
As we answer the call of love, let us examine our own relationships with ourselves, with each other, with the earth, with people in general. How is it that we move in this world? Do we reflect the power of love in our lives? Are we reflecting anger and hatred? What is it that will help us to change course? To say, oops, I may have gone too far here. And to be able to apologize and to forgive each other as we move forth in the world today. Let us strive to embody the power of love and the power of covenant in our lives. Amen. Please be seated.